I'm Jeff Hunt. He's Bill Thorpe. It's Monday.
Can you afford Christmas? Can you afford to live here?
Yeah, great transition, Bill. This hour we're going to get into this headline out of the Denver Gazette. Colorado's cost of living soars, ranks third most expensive state in America. A lot of it has to do with housing. We'll get into this right around the holidays. Right as your credit card statement skyrockets as you try to buy all the gifts for the people in your life. Oh, it's great.
Let's have you
news.
worry about the housing issues. Yes, that's great.
Can you even afford to live here anymore? We'll get into this. But I do want to take a moment of personal privilege, Bill. I thought about this over the weekend. I know it's on a lot of people's mind.
Yeah.
Shootings that take place in public, heartbreaking, right? You saw what happened in Australia, the death of 15 innocent people there. You may be running through in your mind thoughts right now of what do I need to do to protect myself, protect my family. We know that what's going to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun, but if you've got to wait for law enforcement to respond, those are precious minutes. Self-defense matters a lot. And so in light of what's been happening out there, you may be thinking to yourself, what can I do to protect myself, protect my family? It's time for me to get a concealed carry. Well, folks, I want to send you to the gun room in Lakewood, because if you're new to all this, it can be a little intimidating to walk into a gun shop because there's a lot of different choices, right? What's best for me and my family to protect everybody around me? Well, the gun room loves to help people. So if you're brand new to all this, you've never purchased a gun before, you're stepping out into self-defense for the very first time, go check out the good people at the gun room in Lakewood. Their website, denvergunroom.com, denvergunroom.com. Wayne is a great guy. He'll answer all your questions. He'll walk you through all the different options you have out there, help set you up for success. Give him a call, 303-237-1300, 303-237-1300. The website, denvergunroom.com, denvergunroom.com. And ladies, with the holidays coming up, I'm going to make this really easy for you. If you've been wondering what to get your husband, dad, or the outdoorsman in your life, a gift card to the gun room is a home run. Trust me on this one. They're the oldest gun shop in Colorado. And with all the other gun shops heading out because of all the regulations and how difficult it is, you got to support the local guys. Go to denvergunroom.com, denvergunroom.com. Now it's time for the news.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Hey, good morning. Monday, 35 and sunny in Denver, expecting a high of 61 today. News sponsored by Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning at 303-777-1234 to learn more about special savings opportunities on Lennox equipment. Our top story, of course, the Broncos with a big game yesterday. We'll talk about that in a minute. TMZ says the son of Hollywood director Rob Reiner is reportedly in custody after Reiner and his wife were found dead inside their L.A. home. Reiner and his wife, Michelle, were apparently the victims of a stabbing, and their bodies were found Sunday evening. The director's son, Nick, has been open in the past about his struggles with drug addiction and his tumultuous relationship with his father. Reiner was 78 years old, while Michelle was 68. Police still searching for the gunman who killed at least 2 students and wounded 9 others at Brown University in Rhode Island on Saturday. The investigation continues after police released a person of interest from custody last night. Rhode Island AG Peter Nerona says he's confident the case will soon be solved. At least 15 people are dead and 40 others remain hospitalized after an Islamo-terrorist opened fire at Bondi Beach in Sydney. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese says the shooting at a Jewish event in Australia was an act of pure evil. Officials say the shooters were father and son. Broncos played host to the Packers on Sunday at Mile High. Denver going for 11 straight wins. End of the third, the Broncos down 23-21.
On a 2nd and 15. Nix to the end zone. Franklin has it. Touchdown, Broncos.
Bo Nix to Troy Franklin. Gorgeous pass and catch to take the lead, 34-26. The final, Nix threw for 302 yards, 4 touchdown passes. Cortland Sutton, 7 catches, 113 yards, and a touchdown. And late in the game, that defense, Packers with the ball, trying to come back on 4.
Packers have got to have it. Not going to get a pass away. The Orange Rush able to take him down for the third time.
For the third time, and the Broncos with the pressure, they are now 12-2. The defense did a great job, and Bo Nix did as well, and proving that he is the real deal.
Well, thanks a lot, and Bo, congratulations. What a game. You guys came in winners of 10 straight, now 11, but you were the underdogs. What did this team show against a really difficult Packers team?
That we're the overdogs.
Good one.
What was the biggest difference today? What really changed the momentum down the stretch?
I think every unit played great. We had key plays in all units. Defense just kept playing at the end, and they got stop after stop after stop. They got 2 really big turnovers, and then offensively we got touchdowns today instead of field goals. Now we want to close out the game better. We got 2 opportunities to push it and get more points, but I guess we just like one-score games.
The Overdogs play host to the 10-4 Jags coming up this Sunday in Denver. Kansas City quarterback Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes tears his ACL, out for the rest of the season, and the rehabilitation begins right now. And we won't see the Chiefs in the playoffs this year for the first time since 2014. The grandfather, Phillip Rivers, 44 years old, 18 of 27, a touchdown pass, 120 yards passing, 1 interception in his first game in 5 years. But the future Hall of Famer loses the game to the Seahawks. They kick a 56-yarder for the 18-16 win. Rivers' high school team, who he coaches in Fairhope, Alabama, cheering him on. But more than anything else, he wants to do whatever he can to help the Colts get into the postseason.
I'm happy with, but certainly going to quickly turn my attention to the 49ers. And I know it'll be a Monday night game. Hopefully Lucas Oil is rocking. I never got to experience that either in that COVID year. And we're going to scratch and fight and claw. I do know that, and not because I'm here, but I do know that any team I have ever been a part of, not because of me, but I've been a part of, will fight like crazy until they tell us the season's over. And so,
love it. Shedeur Sanders, 18 of 35, 177 yards, 3 interceptions, sacked 5 times, 31-3 loss to the Bears. A group of Colorado pilots continuing a tradition, airlifting a batch of Christmas goodies to veterans around the state. Around 24 pilots took part in the Ron Davies Memorial VFW charity airlift, including Liam Shetterly, captain of the MSU Denver Aerobatics flight team.
We get to fly around and we get to help people in the process, so it's a win-win.
The pilots flew more than 12,000 pounds of toys, food, clothing, and other items from Centennial to communities around Colorado. Great job. 33 in Littleton, 32 in Arvada, 35 in Denver. The sun is out, and sky is blue, and you're waking up with Jeff and Billy. And me too. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Mild air from the Pacific continues to dominate for another week. We're going to see temperatures well in the mid to upper 60s today, 30s to near 40 tomorrow, and lower 60s Tuesday, low to mid 60s Wednesday. It is going to be colder Thursday behind a cold front. That cold front will bring snow to the high country Wednesday night, and Thursday morning. But just a slight chance for a few showers here along the front range Wednesday night and Thursday, but Thursday will be cooler. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
This is an obscure one. Yeah, this is pretty paper. Done by Willie Nelson. He wrote this, but it was first recorded by Roy Orbison. Now, the crazy thing is Willie Nelson was a songwriter at the time. Nobody knew who he was. So he wrote this as a songwriter. Roy Orbison records it. Then Willie gets famous. He comes back and records it himself later on. Also, do you know who invented wrapping paper, my friend, Mr. Jeff?
No idea.
It was invented here in Kansas City in America. We invented wrapping paper. Yes.
No.
Yeah. The story is it's the Brothers Hall. They have a small greeting card store inside of Kansas City. And over the course of the holiday, they run out of tissue paper that they're using as wrapping paper at the time. And they've got customers. You know what you do in that point? You go into the back room. Now, I believe the brother's name is Raleigh. Now, he goes into the back room and sees these envelope liners that they have. And he goes, this might work. He starts selling those for 10 cents a piece. They sell out. They'll look at that the next year and go, well, next year they order more envelope liners and sell them for 3 sheets for 25 cents. That sells like hotcakes. They can't keep it in the store. It is so popular, they create wrapping paper the very next year. And you know the Hall brothers because this is the very first Hallmark store. That's how wrapping paper started.
How have you not monetized all this knowledge that you have? I know that radio stations pay you, but
yeah,
I feel like there's a whole nother level, Mr. Thorpe.
know.
You should be Scrooge McDuck swimming in gold
No.
with the amount of musical
And the thing
knowledge
there
that
is,
you have.
I can time out, and the reason is I ended that story there. I could hear it coming, and so you end right at the end of the story. See, that's the thing that
Well done,
that's what
sir.
they pay me to do. Yeah.
Well, you could use it because Colorado now ranks third most expensive state in the nation to live in, according to a report by a business group covered in the Denver Gazette, released on Thursday. The Colorado scorecard presents a mixed outlook, according to the state chamber's president and CEO Lauren Furman. While Colorado saw improvements in many areas, including the cost of doing business, GDP, and median full-time salary, its cost of living and housing affordability are on the decline, ranking third and second highest nationally, respectively. Colorado's strength remains clear, but the state's rising cost of living is becoming impossible to overlook, said Furman. The findings reinforce what we're hearing directly from employers. Increased costs are making it hard to grow and compete for top talent. These trends will not correct themselves. They require action. She added, as we approach the 2026 legislative session, the chamber will continue to advocate for balanced policies that address these issues head on. Bill, why is it so expensive in this state to live?
Oh, I wish I had the answer, because if I did, then I might be able to run for governor or something. You know, at least run that way. If I knew that it was A, B, and C, I have my theories as far as what things make things more expensive and less expensive. But I feel if there was a magic bullet or a solution, that it would have or could have been proposed right now. I think it's unfortunately multi-layered, and there's a problem. I think there's a problem both locally and there's a problem nationally, as far as just larger things inside of our economic structure. And there are some local things like some of the cost of building houses and some of the lawsuits and things like that that have hurt building houses that are in that affordable or starter range, because if you're going to get sued for everything, then you build the more expensive house because that pads the account that you have for the lawyers. However, I'm not 100% convinced that if we rolled back many of these regulations, that all of a sudden housing becomes affordable. I think we've got a much larger systemic problem. And what I mean by that is the idea of where a society or a community, a state, region, whatever, settles on particular prices. It's very hard to come to a time in which in your life you've seen those prices necessarily roll back significantly and stay there. And what I mean by that is think about the supply chain issues that we had. We heard over and over and over again that these prices were rising so dramatically because of supply chain issues. Has any of us looked around and seen them go back to where they were prior to the supply chain? Chances are no, because very few, if any, have gotten back to that level. And that's what I'm worried about, is that seeing something like that in the economy tells me that even if we solve things based on affordability, I'm not certain the prices would go back down, because those selling us those things aren't motivated to do so. So I'm not certain what the answer is, and that's a real problem. It's worrisome. It really scares me going ahead.
On one hand, Colorado's the 6th most regulated state in the nation, so it's very difficult to build, and that's going to result in a lot of costs. So, for instance, there's builders on X that will talk about how years ago, a decade ago, it took a day or so to get a building permit in Denver. It now takes nearly a year. So you have to sit around while you have all these expenses that are out there, and so it's going to cost more in order to recoup your costs. You can't just quickly build something. It takes forever. Those delays cost a lot more. But also, costs are related to what people are willing to pay, right? So if people are willing to pay $700,000, which is the average cost for a home in Denver right now, well, then that's what people are going to sell for. What I've noticed is that there is there's currently a market where people will complain about the costs and then just put up with it anyways and get it, and then they'll get the big long mortgage and pay 30 years at a pretty significant rate at a high cost per month in order to afford those houses. So in order to bring down the costs on anything, free market wise, economics wise, is you just have to have more of it, because if the demand goes up, well, then the cost is going to go up. If the demand goes up and the availability is low, then cost is going to go up. If demand goes up but availability is plentiful, well, then the consumer is going to push down the cost, because the seller is going to have to respond to the fact that there's 5 other homes, for instance, that are better, that are cheaper. Well, then you're not going to be able to ask this amount. So I'm always intrigued about the time we're in. A lot of people that have bought homes bought them 25, 30 years ago. They're boomers. They're sitting on them. They're cashing out at this point and getting a lot of money, moving into a retirement community, whatever that might be. There's a benefit for that audience at this level, right? If you've been in a home for 30 years, you bought for $300,000, it's now worth $1.2 million, you're cashing out. That's a lot of money.
And
that's a benefit for them. And look, there's in economic theory, there's no such thing as a solution. There are trade-offs.
Yeah, and I just want to add in that right now, for most middle-class families, their largest component of their retirement is that home.
Correct.
That is the largest portion. It's not putting money away in 401ks or IRAs. The largest portion of their retirement is that home property. So that rising does help them.
So in the idea of trade-offs, Mr. Thorpe, right? The idea that there's no solution where everybody's happy, there's just going to be trade-offs. The trade-off is the boomer right now who is retiring, cha-ching, baby, money. Things are going well. These, in a rational society, that money would be passed down to their children as opposed to given to the government, but I digress. That money is going to be a benefit to them. It's going to go into retirement care, which is important. As people are living longer, you end up with dementia. It's terrible. You need round-the-clock care that can't necessarily be provided by the family. So, on one hand, it's pretty good if you're a boomer cashing out. On the other hand, if you're a young family coming up, there hasn't been a lot of options for you. I see that we could solve that by getting rid of the regulations. But, Bill, we're the 6th most regulated state in America with Democrat control of House, Senate, and the governor's office. We all know what Democrats love to do is just make up regulations. It's like in their DNA. So we're going to go into another legislative session with total Democrat control. 500 bills will likely be passed. And believe me, it will be all more regulations. They just can't help themselves. So I'm not sure it's going to get better on the lower end anytime soon.
Yeah, the thing is that if we would take away many of those regulations, I am not convinced that it significantly lowers the base price of the average home in the Denver metro. I'm not convinced it I guess I'd say significantly lowers the base price of any new built home. I don't think that if we took away a lot of these regulations, that all of a sudden the houses would necessarily drop, and I'm saying significantly in price. And what I'm saying by that is I'm assuming something like a $100,000, $200,000 drop, to where maybe the starter home is around $300,000, $350,000 rather than at $500,000 to $700,000. And so that's what I'm playing with. So just to for the conversation on the table, I'm looking at a couple $100,000, maybe just $100,000. I'm not convinced that changing the regulations necessarily changes that price point. Now, when you bring up the time frame of the permits, I think that can have an impact simply because it operates on how long it takes you to start the development. And if we could get more developments moving quicker, I think that does help on the supply side. But I'm not convinced that if we take off the regulations, especially on the lower end, that those builders are going to drop the prices. And what I mean by that is, inside of economics, once a market is paying X, it is difficult to adjust and get them to pay Y, especially if it's lower, because the company has no incentive unless you also at the same time increase demand. But even that doesn't necessarily work. And there's an idea, I don't know if I can walk through the math a little bit, but the idea being, if you had, if I'm trying to see if I can do the math, if you were building whatever the heck it is, left-handed widgets, and you were making $200 per widget, and part of it is your cost is so high because of the economic conditions that exist, etc. If you were selling 1,000 widgets a day, that number that you make gives you X amount of dollars. Then if the regulations would be eased, and you were allowed to lower that price, are you still going to be making that $200 because your costs are still fixed? Chances are, those regulations, you're only going to be making around $150 on each of those widgets. So even by producing the same amount of widgets with fewer restrictions gets you less money. If you follow me based on the math, that's what I'm worried about. That's what I'm worried about.
But if another company comes in, like if the regulations are so much so that it becomes almost difficult that only a few companies can hire the attorneys, for instance, to navigate that, and they're so burdensome and so difficult. I mean, look, I understand nobody wants homes that are going to fall over because there's no regulations in them,
absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
But at the same
Go look
time,
at China, who has bridges that just fall apart.
Right? At the same time, we used to build homes out of sod in this country, right? Like people just went out and cut them out of the ground and build homes out of them. So somehow there's a middle ground in there, right, where you're able to build homes quickly and companies are able to respond. But right now, I think it's so difficult to develop and so burdensome. The only companies that are willing to do it have attorneys on retainer that are willing to fight through all the regulatory challenges, and that has forced the costs up because now you have to pay all of these regulatory hurdles. Colorado, though, the third most expensive state in the nation. What do you blame for this? Because it wasn't always this way. Colorado was one of the hottest states to move into. It's now one of the states that people are leaving as opposed to moving in. Do you blame Democrats for this? Do you remember, I think it was Amendment G, that shifted part of the tax burden over to property taxes versus businesses. And now all of us are paying more, and it's not just the cost of the homes, it's the cost of the taxes. Fees have gone up 3,000% in this state. Everything is more expensive. It wasn't always this way. One of those things that has changed, total Democratic dominance of the state. And they are the types of people that always run on affordability, right? We're going to make it more affordable. I mean, Michael Bennett right now, John Hickenlooper out there, Phil Weiser running on how they can make it more affordable. Phil Weiser's going to come up with a housing czar. He's going to create another government program to help figure out why it's so expensive. Do you remember when Jared Polis created the department for figuring out why things are so expensive?
Yeah.
And has it worked? Nope. I'm pretty sure that the lieutenant governor who's running that is the only person that's benefited from that because she got paid twice. She's paid for that and for being the lieutenant governor of Colorado.
Which, again, if we want to talk about stuff being unaffordable and cost of living, that's a dumb thing. The fact that she can draw 2 salaries for that is stupid. Just in general.
But that's like par. I feel like I agree with you, but that's like par for the course with the Democrats. When they get in control, they enrich themselves. They're making a lot of money. Their friends and NGOs are making a lot of money. But for the rest of us, it all just gets more expensive, and they can never build anything. Look at what's happened in California with the bullet train. Billions of dollars, but the regulations are so burdensome, they can't ever get it done. What do you blame the rising cost of living in Colorado on? Why is this happening? Help me understand it. If you have thoughts, give us a call, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Capitalist Law text line at 720-819-5115. Guys, let's talk advanced hair restoration. If you're losing your hair and desire to have a simple solution that works, you want the best, we got the solution for you, advanced hair restoration. Modern technology, top-rated physicians, something that's guaranteed to work. Guys, you need Dr. Tanya Pauls and her team at Advanced Hair. They've completely redefined hair restoration from the experience itself to their unmatched results. Receding hairline, bald spot, or thinning hair, address them all with Advanced Hair's simple one-day treatment in a calm, relaxed environment with the most experienced professionals. Advanced Hair has performed tens of thousands of these breakthrough treatments. And get this, your own natural hair begins regrowing the very next day. No one in Denver can offer anything like the Advanced FUE found at Advanced Hair, and I highly recommend their team. Look, it all starts with their free consultation. Why not? It's free. Call 720-459-HAIR. If you qualify, you'll get $250 off and 250 free hair grafts. Refine your hairline with the team that's redefined hair restoration. 720-459-HAIR. 720-459-HAIR or advancedhair.com. Advancedhair.com. We'll continue with your phone calls and texts. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710, KNUS. Oh, this is a difficult one. Because nobody really knows the origins of this song. They can't point to an original author nor an original time. I think the first time it appears is somewhere in the late 1700s. It appears in print somewhere. But there are all sorts of guesses as to why this was originally created. And part of it is, was it a memory game for young kids? Was it trying to teach the catechism to young Catholics? Probably not that one. But yeah, there's some real questions about why and how this was created, because it also has some roots in folk songs and originally not sung. Originally it was chanted as a poem. It was not originally a song. But yeah, don't know the original origins because it doesn't really exist.
Joy Reid out with a statement that it's probably racist.
Yeah, probably. That's for her. And she's wrong about Jingle Bells, so why not this too? Yeah.
We're talking Colorado. Cost of living soars, ranks third most expensive state in America, mostly due to our housing costs. What happened? Suzanne texting in, it's simple. It's greed. Well, I mean, if you could sell your house for $1.2 million, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, and if your input costs are relatively the same between a $500,000 house and a $900,000 house, why wouldn't you build a $900,000 house? Why wouldn't you take the extra cost,
Correct.
the extra profit, if your input costs are relatively the same? So that's it as well. Does it make more sense? And that's what you were talking about. Make more sense to build the more expensive homes because you're covering yourself in the back end with lawyers. Yeah.
But what do you attribute this to? Do the purchasers just need to settle out for a second? Go, you know what? It's just too high. I mean, it's a market. Right? So if everybody, imagine you're in a market full of widgets and everyone's selling them for $1 and people are like, it's too much. We want 10 cents a widget. Isn't it up to the purchasers to just not purchase in order to send that price signal?
In some ways, but you also can change it on the demand side by people on the demand side by increasing demand, but with that demand creating competition as you talked about. Or the idea that with that increased demand, you can make it up more based on number of things you can buy, or you can do the Walmart thing. That because demand is so large, I can get you to sell it at a lower price than what you normally would to everybody else. So there are a couple of ways that you can also affect change on the demand side of things. But the thing is, there's no real easy solution. There's no magic wand.
I'll tell you this much. The solution you don't want is Jared Polis and politicians down at the state capitol trying to figure it out. Believe me, nothing they touch gets cheaper. Let's go to Peggy in Lakewood. Good morning, Peggy. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning.
Good morning. So I have two things, the cause and the solution. So I think one of the causes is we kind of are a society of like the other one said, greed and entitlement. So we have this culture nowadays of everybody wants to live in their own place, whether they can afford it or not, instead of staying at home a little while longer. Before, we'd have multi-generational housing where parents, grandparents, and kids would at least be home until they were 24, 25, ready to go. But nowadays, people want to get out and feel entitled, and they argue with their folks, and they feel entitled to live in their own place, and that's just paying the man instead of paying the clan. And one of the solutions that I had for an idea is that, say you have 4 kids, and one of the kids wants the house. So instead of paying a market price for the house, you offer the parents offer that house to the one who wants to buy the house at, say, $30,000, $40,000 less, because everybody knows where the cracks are at. And then that person buys out the other 3 siblings. That way, the other 3 siblings get some inheritance to buy their own place. The one person gets to buy the house, and the parents get to get a good price.
Yeah, there's a lot of value to that.
I like that idea.
Yeah, there would be. And I like the idea that you're talking about the multi-generational housing. Is I think that we've gotten a little bit away from that because I know people in my own family and friends that when I was growing up, they were in multi-generational housing situations where either it was that and I mean full-on adult kids in their 30s and sometimes 40s were back living at grandma's, meaning I'd go over to see their grandmother with them, and, Uncle John would be the guy in the extra bedroom. I remember that one, and then I also remember ones in which friends of mine in high school brought grandma into the home, where she was getting to an advanced age, and they set up a room, on the main floor that was, it was no longer the extra room, and now it was grandma's room. And and we did that a lot more back then. Yeah, I think there's some merit to that.
And everybody contributes to the household.
Yeah, and the advantage back then was that,
everything.
and the advantage back then that they thought about bringing grandma in was, it's kind of silly to think about, but the idea that grandma was very, very fastidious about cleaning. And so they were like, she's going to keep the house clean, plus she'll have to cook. So they were like, we're bringing someone in
cook and babysit.
Exactly. That's exactly it. Yeah, there's some real merit to that.
Yes. Okay. Good.
And look, Peggy, I think at the end of the day, it's about trade-offs, right? We believe, and it's the wrong thinking with regards to economics if you think there's a silver bullet out there that's going to solve everybody's problems and everybody's fine. It's a trade-off right now. I mean, if you are 65, maybe let's say 75, you're 75 years old, you're cashing out, you bought your home for $300,000, it's now worth $1.2 million. Well, good on you. Good on you. That's great. I mean, you're going to be able to cover the retirement home costs, which are $8,000, $9,000, sometimes $10,000 a month, in order to have ongoing care. You're going to have the money to be able to provide that care. So, you know, it's just part of it.
Give you an idea of the pricing. So, my parents bought the house. I still own it, but my parents bought it for $16,000. Okay. Wow. But it was a family of 6, and my dad's income was $400 a month.
Jeez, so totally different time.
It's, it wasn't affordable for them either at that time.
But they made sacrifices, and look at where they are now. So.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep, exactly.
Peggy, Lakewood, appreciate the call. Thanks so much. Peggy's line will be open if you want to join us. 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971. Look, if you got the home, you got the golden handcuffs, right? You're not going to be moving because you got that great interest rate back in the early 2020s. Well, you want to update the home? We got the solution for you. Gyrie's, folks. There's Gyrie's all around the Denver metro area. My wife and I went to the one in Parker, got to sit down with their professional designer who showed us an incredible selection of Hunter Douglas custom blinds, shades, and shutters. You can really improve the look of your home with Gyrie's. Look, I was a little overwhelmed at first because I've never worked with a designer. I was a little concerned about the cost. You don't have to be. The designer was a pro, very affordable. She walked us through everything and helped us find the perfect options to enhance the look and functionality of our home. So whether your curtains are clashing or you just want a fresh look, Gyrie's has the solution for you. They're designers or the experts, and they can help you with everything from window treatments to full room decor. But here's the best part. They offer a personalized in-home consultation, which means they come directly to you with all the samples so you can see what it's going to look like in your home. Get the same expert advice we had in our home right in your own home. Do yourself a favor. Get started today. Visit Gyrie's.com to schedule your in-home consultation. That's GUIRYS.com, Gyrie's.com. Go see the great people at Gyrie's. You'll be sure to thank me. Now, Bill Weiser, to address this rising housing costs, is going to come up with a department to address the rising housing costs. It is December 15th, 2025. Mark it on your calendar, because this guy's likely to be the next governor of Colorado. Him and Michael Bennett fighting it out. But do you believe that he is going to, through his housing cost czar, be able to reduce the cost of housing?
Nope, not at all. No. And the reason why is because he comes forward with, I need to get a bunch of people together to talk about it because I don't know what's going on. That's literally it. If he had an idea, he'd talk about it. This is, in my mind, this is an avoidance tactic. This is an avoidance tactic, meaning that he gets to say, I'm going to do something about it without telling you, one, what he's going to do, two, if he has any clue at all about what the real problems are. This is an avoidance tactic. If he thought that there were certain crises in affordability in Colorado, he could possibly point to them and say, we need them to do X, Y, and Z. These are the problems. We had a, Douglas County Commissioner on with us last week. I think that their plan of telling businesses inside of their area that if you don't report theft within 24 hours, we're going to fine you $50 a day up to a maximum of $1,000 is kind of silly. I don't think there's any enforcement mechanism. But they have, even though I believe it's wrong directed, identified a problem and offered a solution. Phil Weiser hasn't even found the problem per se. He just says affordability. But we can understand that there is a problem inside of the businesses because people keep stealing stuff. So at least the Douglas County Commissioners were able to say, some of this problem is because people keep taking the stuff. What is the underlying problem? This is an avoidance tactic by Weiser to say that he's going to do something. And again, it's a commission that's going to sit around and talk. So how quickly are these things going to happen and how quickly it's going to be affordable? That's the idea. Is this kicks the can down the road. This says I'm doing something without me doing anything.
You know what it reminds me a lot of?
What?
Is Kamala Harris's book, which I read. So you don't have to, folks.
Yeah.
I read it. But she complains throughout her book why nobody would take her seriously because she had commissions. She had done commissions. she had done a commission to address the border crisis.
Yeah.
She had done a commission to deal with the Israeli-Palestinian war. In her mind, there was always, but she had done things. Bill, she had created commissions.
Yeah, here's the problem with
to go
that.
do so.
The core problem with that, Jeff, is, and again, you and I appreciate this on a different level maybe than some of the audience because you both have 4 kids. Every night, if there is not something planned on the menu, you have to form a commission called What's for Dinner. And nothing ever gets done. Nobody's ever happy. There's no choice being made. And finally, someone is like, screw it, we're making mess. That's how it happens. So all of you that have multiple kids in your house, you understand how that commission kind of an idea works. And I was doing a little bit of back of the napkin math. I want to talk about things that are affordable and unaffordable. We're talking housing here, Jeff, but just out of curiosity, because this is just something that has been pissing me off. Okay, I apologize saying that we're at 8:44 in the morning. I walk into the store. A 12-pack of soda is running $10. Okay.
Whoa.
A 12-pack.
What?
Yes, a 12-pack of name brand soda will run you a 10 spot right now. Now, that's been ticking me off for the last couple of weeks because now they're running this thing about buy 2 and get 2 free. It's really just $5 at that point. If you guys can give them away for $5, if you guys can sell them at that place for $5, the normal price should be $5. Stop scamming with the idea of buy 2 get 1 and you run it for 3 weeks. Stop that. Now, next, the $10 for the 12-pack. 5 years ago, it was $5 for a 12-pack in 2020. That's in 5 years. The cost has gone up $5 they're charging us for a name brand 12-pack. The previous 20 years, going from the year 2000 to the year 2020, the price of a 12-pack increased about $1.20. So understand, within 20 years, the increase of the price of a 12-pack of soda was about $1.20. But in the last 5 years, it has doubled. So you want to talk about affordability costs? Part of it is those prices rose because of input costs over the supply chain constraints. They never came back down. When I talk about it, that's an example. Within 5 years, a 12-pack of soda has doubled what you're paying at the store. The previous 20 years, your cost increased to $1.20.
But there's for a free market to work, you have to have consumer response. And so if you just kind of march along, no matter what the cost is, the businesses are going to charge that because their goal, rightfully so, is to maximize profits. So whether it's soda or housing, you have to send a signal back into the marketplace on what you're willing to buy. I'm not sure that's always the case. Feel free to give us a call. Join the conversation. 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law Text line, 720-819-5115. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710, KNUS. upbeat rock version of this one.
Yeah, King and Country, aren't they Christian?
Yeah,
they're a Christian.
They
band.
are. They're a Christian band.
See, I know these.
Yeah.
I've heard of these guys.
Hey,
before,
it's
but
fantastic.
It's only because Caleb's on it.
Now, here's a trivia
House a
question
lot.
for you, Jeff. Can you name a song that was covered by both Johnny Cash and RuPaul?
Little
Yes,
drummer boy.
Little drummer boy. Yes, my friend. Yeah, this is actually an old Czech carol. Is where it comes from. Was adapted and originally called "Carol of the Drums." Is what it was called. The Trapp Family Singers, from Sound of Music fame, they did a version in real life of that song, but it was changed mid-50s. I think Harry Simone is the guy who's a director and musical arranger for many of Bing Crosby and other movies like that at the time. Comes out with his singers and does a version of it with it remade, and it becomes Little Drummer Boy. It's one of the few Christmas carols that, while it focuses on the nativity, doesn't focus on Lord Jesus. It's one of the few that on the nativity highlights another character that is there. Doesn't happen very often.
Wow.
So it's very unique. Yeah.
There you go.
Kind of cool. Also one of my faves. I love this one.
This is one of your favorites.
This is one of my favorites. I love this one. Yeah.
We're talking a headline out of the Denver Gazette. Colorado's cost of living soars, ranks third most expensive state in America, mostly due to housing costs. Let's go to the phone lines. Paige, Denver. Good morning, Paige. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning.
Good morning. With regards to the third place winner of most expensive housing, I understand that, but what I don't understand is 5 years ago, this coming March, I purchased a condominium for $226,000. It's now valued at $227,000. Why are condominiums and townhomes not increasing in value while home prices are doubling and tripling?
Really good question. Bill, you have thoughts on that?
I think there are a couple of reasons. One is where the housing prices are. The idea of where you're buying a condo at $260,000, $220,000 versus where the home price is. There are different people that are purchasing them, and many times those are upgraders. So it's the idea of someone that is taking your $200,000 condo or townhome and upgrading into a single family home. But they're dropping, in my opinion, based on price because there aren't enough people out there that are in the market in order to, you're not seeing the increase, that are trying to get into those particular homes, in part because, as Jeff and I talked about just last week, that the out-migration of that middle and lower middle income that would be able to afford those houses, or they would use them as starter homes right now, there's a lot of out-migration. And the in-migration is by people that are making higher six figures, and they're not looking for a $200,000 condo. They're looking for a $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 condo. They want to go live right off the area of Cherry Creek or somewhere downtown near the ballpark, rather than find something that would be more affordable. So I think that's part of it, but it's not the entire reason, I don't think. But I'd be curious. I'd be real curious about that as well. I'll have to find some people that know a lot more about it than I do.
Housing around me has tripled in price. I'm a mile and a half from Cherry Creek Mall, so the area is good. There's parks all around.
Yeah, that is. I'm going to have to look at that. I'm going to have to ask some realtors, friends of mine, about why condo prices within that, because that is something that is really close. That's close enough to Cherry Creek Mall. You should be seeing some increases. You really should. Yeah, especially some other developments I've seen going in that place. They're doing condos. They're charging a heck of a lot more than that.
We sure appreciate the call, Paige. Thanks so much. Question as to what is the most or the least affordable states. I'm going to have to click through a whole bunch of ads in order to get to that on the U.S. News and World Report.
Someone's got to make money at U.S. News and World Report.
We'll be right back. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is KNUS.